Good morning, Upper School, and welcome back to your English session. So, our focus for this week is direct speech. Let's take a look at a little bit of a definition. Direct speech involves quoting exactly what a person says. For direct speech, inverted commas go around the words spoken and synonyms for said are used to avoid repetition. When writing direct speech, ensure that you start a new paragraph each time a different person speaks. So let's take a look at some examples. "Hello, Sarah," said Mike. "What are you doing here? Why don't you pause the video and have a look if you can find any of the punctuation used for speech?" Did you find it? Let's take a look together. As you can see, Mike begins by saying hello. So we start with our punctuating speech there of inverted commas. We have a capital letter to start the speech. And we end this bit with a comma because we know Mike says something else. We've also got inverted commas to end that piece of speech. So it says, "Hello, Sarah," said Mike. "What are you doing here?" As you can see, we've got another set of speech marks and a capital letter to show that we're starting some direct speech. To end this piece of direct speech, we have a question mark. And we have a question mark because Mike is asking a question. The piece of punctuation goes before the inverted commas at the end of direct speech. Always remember that bit. And as you can see, there are inverted commas. Why don't we take a look at her reply? "I'm meeting my friends here," she replied. "We're having lunch together." So as you can see, she's got her own paragraph because it's a new speaker. We start with our inverted commas. We have our capital letter to start the piece of speech. We have a comma because she's going to say more. And remember, that comma goes before the end of the piece of speech and before the inverted commas. "She replied." So now we've used a different word for said. Because she's replying to Mike, we can say she replied. Our next piece of speech again is punctuated with inverted commas and a capital letter. To end this piece of speech, instead of using a comma, question mark, we've used a full stop because that's where she's finished speaking. And then we have our inverted commas. Let's take a look at this then. Mike then says something else. What do we notice? That's right, a new speaker, new line. We start with our inverted commas, our capital letter, and we end with a piece of punctuation, and then our inverted commas. Can you spot? Mike doesn't just say it, he pause the video and have a think. What does he do? He asks a question, so therefore we've used asked Mike instead of said Mike. This time, for our last example, we haven't just used said and we haven't put our directed speech at the beginning of our sentence. We've said that Sarah said beforehand and we've put a comma just before the piece of directed speech to show that the speech is coming. We've got our lovely inverted commas at the beginning and the end, our capital letter, and our piece of punctuation before the last set of speech marks or inverted commas. But what does that look like when we're looking at our picture? Well, we've got a lovely example for you. Let's take a look. "Mum, I'm bored," moaned the girl, as she stood miserably in the kitchen. So can you see, there's the girl, and she's standing in the kitchen with her mum. "Not now, sweetheart," mouthed her mother, as she simultaneously stirred the soup and chatted to Auntie Nora on the phone. Sighing loudly, the girl left the kitchen and continued to seek out someone to help her to relieve her of her boredom. Perhaps her father would be less busy. "Dad," she started, peering over the back of his office chair. Without taking his eyes off the computer screen, he announced, "I'm working." Slowly, the girl left the study, dragging her feet on the carpet. Entering her sister's room, she nervously suggested, Will you play with me?" "Get lost," came her sister's rude retort. "Why not pause the video now and see if you can spot the direct speech?" Did you find all of it? Let's take a look. "Mum, I'm bored," moaned the girl. What's really nice here is that we have our speech marks, or our inverted commas, our capital letter, and we end with a comma, and then our inverted commas again. We also see that the girl just didn't say it, she moaned. Take a look at the next sentence. "Not now, sweetheart." Another piece of directed speech. Our inverted commas are in the right place, our capital letter, and our piece of punctuation. Mouthed her mother. Again, she didn't just say it, she mouthed it. What about the next couple of lines? Well, I can't see any directed speech there, but I do see this piece of speech. Again, we've got our inverted commas and our capital letter, but this time we don't end in a full stop. What's this? That's right, it's an ellipsis, and that's used to encourage the reader to read on. Dad, it also encourages the reader to use a bit of more emotion when reading it. What about this next sentence? Without taking off his eyes off the computer screen, he announced. Again, he didn't just say it. It gives it a little bit of more formality, makes us feel like she's slightly in trouble. I'm working. As you can see, our inverted commas are in the right place, our capital letter, and our piece of punctuation before the inverted commas. And our last couple pieces of speech is, will you play with me? Entering her sister's room, she nervously suggested. A lovely adverb here before saying how she said it. She suggested it. Will you play with me? And as you can see, inverted commas, capital letter, and our lovely question mark. We also notice that there is a new line for our new speaker. Who's the new speaker? It's the sister. She replies with, get lost, implying that she doesn't want to play with her sister. And what we can see is that it says, came her sister's rude retort. If you're not sure what the word retort is, here's a challenge. Why don't you look it up in a dictionary? Our last piece of speech ends with our lovely inverted commas. And as you can see, I've been able to move the action on. The girl has gone and asked her 3 different family members. My challenge for you is, why don't you change the narrative? Why don't you change the speech? Could they be saying something very different? Your challenge is to write a paragraph and include the directed speech. Why not share it on Purple Mash with your class teachers? We're really looking forward to seeing all the fantastic work that you get up to. And I look forward to sharing with you the grammar focus for next week.